Hi, today I would like to talk about releasing doubts, and this will be in relationships, doing difficult things, and in like doing difficult, like maybe social events or tasks, and also in work. So, in these three areas, using what Sean Sheshan Hashmat Pour speaks about, he says there's 8 steps. One is we have to trust ourselves. We have to do what we say we will. This is what actually gives us confidence. He says we have to experience every emotion. We have to focus on the feelings, not the worst case scenario outcomes. We can't always be rushing to do. We actually have to see what feels like what while we're doing it. Number 3, we have to think of ourselves in a positive way and form good opinions of ourselves. And this is very connected to a different one here, which is to change our state of being. If we're so used to being hard on ourselves and critical, then we realize our behavior is based on our beliefs. Beliefs are repeated thoughts, and thoughts create feelings. So we're literally telling ourselves over and over, I'm not going to make it, I'm not okay. We're going to start to have this feeling of like heaviness and weariness. And then our beliefs will be that I am too much or I can't handle. But the truth is that if we start to think positive of ourselves, constantly like, wow, I'm doing a great job, this is not easy, I am so brave, or I could just stay small and I'm not. And so we start to do that. Now the other side of that, he mentions, this is number 5, is to separate ourselves from arrogance, though, because if we come from a place of comparing to others and trying to prove that I'm better, that's not real. That's not a real security. That's actually very dependent, and it'll be even more difficult to maintain an emotional balance or to release the doubts, because every time anything on the outside shifts, we have to adopt something new inside. Number 5 is, number 6 is practicing humility, because actually we don't need to be better than anyone. There's a lot of mistakes we make, there's a lot of things we don't know, and that's a big part of accepting the world and the rest of the people that we interact with, and also the unknown, the unpredictable, and also our flaws. And so we don't have to be so perfect and kind of what feeds the arrogance, like I have to be better than someone, like. And then we can actually take action. Number 7, we take massive action. We dive into experiences. In doing so, we desensitize ourselves from like the fear that we're bad or we can't handle it. In fact, taking a massive action where we may fail is a practice of learning how to be okay with failure, which is something that could be used for the future when we have things we want to do that we may not be able to easily get done. We might have to take a big risk, but we're too afraid. But if we already practiced failing a few times by trying new things we didn't care so much about, we're desensitized and we can actually try and do it. And we may better to try and not succeed in certain things than to not try at all and always have that kind of looming. And finally, he says, as the last step, is identify why you lack self-confidence. What is giving you self-doubt? Is it because you're not following through? Maybe you have to set your standards lower. Maybe you have to practice just keeping small things to yourself. I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to drink enough water, and just do those things first. Is it because of the inner critic where you're not actively telling yourself nice things? Is it because you're numb to your emotions? You're not feeling what it feels like to fail or to be afraid, and desensitizing yourself to some of these? And now I'm going to bring this into work anxiety. So continuing with Sean in another, topic. So relationship with money, deconditioning scarcity is the work. So money itself is able to be thought of as unlimited, because if you think about it, our country is going into unlimited amounts of national debt. So if debt is unlimited, so is abundance. If there's more than enough to borrow than what we have, then there's more than enough to lend. So this deconditioning is to release some of the mental thoughts around, if there's not enough, we're not going to use the good glasses. If there's not enough, we're not going to eat something that's tasty. So think about where you've been conditioned into scarcity, and how money itself isn't what gives you a feeling of abundance. It's the experiences you give yourself permission for, no matter what. Eat well, sleep well. Like, you can be poor or rich, and you can take care of yourself to the best of your ability. You can make it a priority. You can do what you have to. Number 2 is you release attachment to outcomes. This is the work. This is the work. Maybe we have dreams of buying or having nice things, or we look at status, or we look at the numbers themselves. I want to attain this number. That isn't a way to let go of these doubts in work and the anxiety around performance. And this is a big one with like, I am not my net worth. So we elevate our relationship with ourselves. I am worthy of my kindness and of seeing my seeing my achievements without having to overcompensate because I think that I'm not worthy and my work or my money reflects my value. And this is, leading us deeper. We have to connect deeply, right, with why we're doing this. What's my mission? Like, why am I even doing this work? What's the purpose? The purpose is in the purpose is why is in the end, the goal. So we start with that purpose, and then we can start to change how we work. We can recognize the amount of time that I may work, if it's 9 to 5, will not dictate whether I'm successful. The determination is actually not a healthy time management, and it could lead to overextended energy if we're trying to put in the hours. In fact, we may do better with rest periods, recovery periods, maybe working a few hours at a time, maybe like recognizing we have different type of tasks. So in the morning we do some of the tasks that are, for a high energy person in the morning, we do some of those tasks that require more work and focus. And then we do some of the more, I'm not going to say mindless, but like less requiring tasks of the mind or the focus in the evening, for example. So it's not the amount of time, it's how we're using the time and how we're working. And then we can expand our views on what we're able to receive. Like, okay, this is who I am. I need to set up a schedule that serves me. I need to be interested in my work. I need to feel a purpose. And from that place, we become more whole, more open. Like, this is who I am. I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm not trying to identify as a different person. And so this imposter syndrome of feeling unworthy, feeling undeserving, we start to receive love and gratitude. Because I'm worthy, because even I'm, somebody who may not have a lot of energy in the evening. So I start to put the tasks in the morning. I'm being kind to myself. I'm being loving. I'm grateful for my work. And that's sort of like creates a healthier relationship with the work itself. And finally, we can focus on joy. So this is like not on, I should have done it like this, or I could have done it better, or this. It's actually like it's not always trying to do the right thing. It's trying to feel good sometimes. So making it good, making it feel good, making the work feel better than anxious. These are all tips, right? Like, if you connect with your purpose, you could feel inspired. If you stop being so whipping of yourself about how many hours you put in, and instead you work smart, and how you work is appropriate for you, you start to feel like, hey, I actually feel like a breeze on my face, or the sunshine, or I talked to a really cool client who I want to speak to again, or I was so progressive in my outlook and I was able to contribute a lot and I'm so proud of myself. And that's things that start to happen when we're willing to shift our focus from, having to do everything the right way to actually feeling good while we're doing it for the sake of doing it. That leads also back into like not attachment to outcome from the previous section. And finally, in my therapy session last week, we talked about how I can validate myself when I go to difficult events where I may have social anxiety come up or fear around difficult people. They're not difficult, they're not bad, but for me, it's difficult to know how to engage with them, or I feel degraded in some way. So these are some ways in which to look at myself and to look at the situation with thoughts that help me to create some space so I could grow into the truth. And first of all, it's not my job to make people better, right? So some people need clinical help. And I'm still valid even if I can't make them feel better, even if I can't clinically help them. Having emotional difficulty, struggling with self-esteem at that moment, when I'm there, when I might be triggered, when is not the time to be guiding people. I'm too vulnerable in that moment. I'm still valid even if I'm vulnerable, even if I can't guide anybody, even if I'm having an emotional difficulty, even if I'm struggling with self-esteem. I'm not required to be the support for someone who's making me anxious. I'm valid even if I'm anxious, or even if somebody's triggering me, or even if they need support at that moment too, and I can't. At that moment, I'm valid even if I turn inward and affirm that I'm okay. And I don't affirm them or turn outward that they're okay. I also